Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
So we're late. This was due at midnight, but it's a little bit,
Technically, it's still
it's
Tuesday,
still
so
Tuesday. Uh, Welcome to episode 84 of Eat, Drink, Write, an Urban Fantasy Whiteboard. We're going to be talking about a theme today. We always say we're going to, and we never do. So we're going to talk about the death theme today.
Mhm. Yeah,
But first, how was your week?
it's good. It's busy. So my girlfriend moved in with me, so we've just been doing that for the past week or so. Um, I feel like something happened this weekend, and I can't remember. Oh, we went to we went to Virginia. Listen,
Yes,
my brain is not here today. It
I
has
am
not been here
telling you.
all day.
This whole year has been terrible. It's been go, 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 go.
Yeah,
And that's why we're late, is because of this anniversary that my parents had, Taylor's grandparents, their 65th wedding anniversary.
yeah,
And it was a last minute kind of thing because they haven't been doing well. I mean, I think I keep talking about how I'm having to go up there for my mother's illnesses and falls and that kind of thing. And they decided at the last minute that they really wanted everybody there for their anniversary. I mean, in 65, it's a huge year. So we have all dropped everything and went up there to do that. And it was beautiful. It was wonderful. Like, we pulled it together. It was awesome, but it did require that there was no way that Taylor and I could record this episode and get it out on time. So, I
yeah.
mean, we're going to still get it out on Tuesday, just not, it's just a
Just late
little bit late.
Tuesday.
Yeah, just
Little
late
late
Tuesday.
Tuesday, but it's still Tuesday.
But it was a fun week. That the anniversary, they were very surprised at the things that we put together. It was beautiful. So very, very nice.
Very,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's made things crazy for us trying to get real life in place. So I
It's
know,
been a very hectic week.
yeah, Taylor had a
Ugh.
bad day today. My day is crazy. Your dad, my husband, is leaving tomorrow for 3 days, which is always lovely.
Yeah.
Riley started in-person school. Luckily, she's immunized. But the numbers are spiking in all the schools. I'm very worried. We have a mask mandate here, thank goodness, which she would have worn regardless of whether we had a mask mandate or not.
Right.
It's just very scary. The numbers are going back up there. I don't know that this is the right thing to do, but you don't want to shut everything down again. It killed all of us last
I don't
year.
think it needs to be shut down. I just think everybody needs to wear their masks.
Yeah, just be careful, be safe.
Yep. Wash your hands.
Yep. What are you eating and drinking today?
Well, since it is so late, I have not eaten yet, but
Oh no,
yeah. Well, I ate a bag of Cheetos, but I don't think that counts for this podcast.
probably not.
Uh,
I like
um,
Cheetos though. That's my one thing I'll cheat with keto on, is Cheetos.
they're pretty good. They're not bad, but I ate some so that I wouldn't be super hangry doing this. And and afterwards, I'm going to eat some leftovers from a dinner that I had last night, which was like a pulled pork brisket sandwich with green beans and arugula on it. It's very weird, a very weird eclectic sandwich, but it's very good. My mouth is watering.
I know, right?
So that will be my food, and is absolutely delicious.
Yeah,
So
I was there at that same dinner with her. My daughter number one is in town, and so we all met in Athens, Georgia, which was a central location at that point, and had a wonderful meal. So that was fun. I had no leftovers because I ate them all, but I
yeah.
made chicken chili tonight.
Ooh.
Keto versions, to much to your youngest sister's dismay. She's like, "Oh, the one with the corn." I'm like, "Well, your dad and I can't eat corn." She's like, "Oh, but the white beans." I'm like, "Your dad and I can't eat white beans." And
Oh,
she's like,
poor, poor
what
kid.
is this thing?" And it was good.
It's just chicken and
It's
sauce.
like chicken soup. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a chicken chili soup. But it was good. And I'm drinking my wine, which I started a little bit ago. We've been struggling even tonight to try to get this together. We're a lot later than usual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a margarita and I'm using the cup that you made me.
Oh, look at that. I love it.
It says the mountains are calling
I love it.
and I love it. So,
Nice. Very nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a fancy cup. I was just lucky to get a drink into something.
Yeah. Fair. Fair enough. I mean, about same. I'm ready to suck this sucker down.
Yeah, it's been a time. So I don't even have jokes this week, y'all. I have a quote since we're talking about the death theme.
Yeah.
This is a quote by Gordon Corman, and it says, "The dog always dies. Go to the library and pick out a book with an award sticker and a dog on the cover. Trust me, that dog is going down."
It's true though.
It is. It really, really is. Old
True.
Yeller. I
I
mean,
think it's because it pulls on the heartstrings, so you get a reaction out of people, and
mhm,
therefore that's, it's a not necessarily like a quote unquote good reaction, but I mean that's not what they're aiming for when they kill off a dog.
mhm.
So
Yeah, it's hard to do this theme as an overall theme because there's so many ways that you can use death as a theme in a book,
right.
but we will try. So if you remember, a theme is the main idea or underlying meaning that an author explores in a novel. There can be multiple themes in a story, but each of them says something big about the story's lesson and what readers can take away from the book.
Yeah.
So death is a very common theme.
Extremely. Yeah.
Yeah. Since much of fiction is a reflection of actual life. I mean, death is a huge part of actual life. It comes as no surprise that it would be used as a theme in literature.
Yeah.
Treatments of death are as varied as the authors who write them.
Yeah. I mean, everybody responds so differently. Everybody would obviously write it very differently.
Yeah. I mean, and it can be used in any kind of literature, even comedy. I mean, think of those dark comedies that are out there.
What's that one that Dad likes a lot? It's Death at a
Death at a Funeral.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
It's a
And
good one.
we just started a series. I don't even remember if it was Utopia. Have you watched that series yet?
No.
Very
Utopia. Is it Euphoria?
No,
Not
Utopia.
Euphoria. Utopia. Okay.
And we watched the very first episode. So I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but the first episode was very dark humor.
Oh, okay.
And we can't decide if we like it or not.
For a show called Utopia. Interesting.
It is very interesting. So we will explore that. But so death can be a theme even in a comedy.
Yeah. Yep.
It was very common in ancient literature, which, tragedy was Romeo and Juliet, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's the one I can think of right off the top of my head. But,
Right.
if you think about how hard life was back then, it's understandable as to why it was a common theme.
Yeah, true facts. I'm glad I am not living back then.
Yeah, of course, someday in the future, people will be saying the same of our time frame.
I'm sure they will, but you know
Yeah.
what? At some point, the human race is going to die out. So
Can you imagine? They had to sit in front of a computer and talk to each other. How weird is that?
why didn't they just teleport, Mom?
I know, right? But it is still used in modern times. I mean, death is a crucial fact of life. And from the emotional response to death, you got various religious frameworks that it's interpreted through. That's not a word. Interpreted.
Interpreted.
Okay, what she said. I have been drinking for a little while because we've been trying for a little bit to get this going. So,
well, I will point out that I didn't realize that it was wrong at first until you realized that it was wrong. So we're on the same page. I think it's fine.
That's good. At least we pointed it out so our listeners aren't going, these people are crazy. These people are writers. I mean,
they're
really?
Here on episode 84, they know we're crazy.
They already know us.
Yes.
Death is an uncontrollable and inevitable event. So this is a great theme to build tension, emotions, all of that in a novel.
Absolutely. Pure conflict.
Definitely. So think about your overall point. And this is what I was talking about. There's so many different ways to portray death, what that theme could be.
Right.
To know how to use it, you've got to reflect on what that point is and why you're doing this. So are you trying to show that you should live life to the fullest because death comes for all of us? Are you trying to show that grief from death can be overcome? Are you trying to show that you shouldn't ever go down without a fight? That even though you might die, there are things worth dying for, like Rogue One we were talking about last week, couple weeks ago, whenever it was.
Right. Whenever we talked about sacrifices or something, I think.
Yeah, but that's an
Um,
excellent example of not going down without a fight. They knew they were going to die, but there are some things worth dying for. You know,
right.
that Red Dawn, Warriors of the Red Dawn, the one with Patrick Swayze from back in the 80s, is another one. You probably haven't even seen that episode. It
I
just
don't think I have.
shows
Yeah.
my age. They did a
Just like
remake,
a little.
which wasn't even close. I mean, when they showed that one, it was really well done for the time that it was
Yeah.
made in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So what you're talking about here then is, thinking about the overall purpose, I guess,
mhm.
of including death as a theme.
Yes. I mean, and you should never do anything without a purpose.
Right.
You don't,
Yeah.
and we've talked about that over and over again. You don't throw things in there just for kicks. There
Yeah.
should
Right.
always be a reason for whatever you're doing. So if you're going to use death as a theme, you definitely, have a purpose.
Right.
Use your journal to jot down ideas before you even start writing. What is it that you're wanting to use this death theme for? Why do you even want to do it? What is it that's so important about that theme that you want it in your book?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would suggest making like a bulleted list of all of these things, or a flow chart, or, whatever makes your brain happy with,
Yeah.
writing out these ideas. But I would, list them all out or write them all down or whatever. And I think it would give you a clearer idea of like, oh, yeah, death is a good theme for my novel.
Yeah. And it would let you know whether you're trying to go after it just for the shock value or whether there's a true theme there that you should put in.
Right.
You don't want to, well, I mean, there's a place for grade B horror movies and novels.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love those. I love the books. I love the movies. I love all of that. So if that's what you're going for, great. But think about what your particular book is and what it is you're wanting to get out of it.
Yeah.
So there are themes within the death theme. So old age, the stages
yeah.
of life,
Yeah. I mean, realizing, everything comes to an end, and can
Mhm.
you can use this to, I feel like you could use this to show your character's appreciation for their life, like across a, oh gosh, y'all, my brain is not here, across a plot line, or even the lack of appreciation for life.
And maybe that the stages of life is, you can show the lack of what they, the things that might have been, and to teach the reader, the moral of the story is don't
Regrets. Yeah.
Yes, regrets. That's the perfect word.
Regrets.
Mortality,
Oh yeah.
it comes for us all. There's no
Yeah.
escaping it. But how do you face it? Is that what you're trying to get across with this death theme?
Yeah, and it reminds me of like what you were saying earlier, or what we were saying. I don't know. But response is very, listen, I'm
Somebody
not
said
gonna
it.
well, it was said before. Responses to death vary. So, some people become reckless and rash, while others might withdraw and become more cautious and actually not go outside.
Oh, good point.
So I think it's important to consider what your characters will do in the event of death, individually.
That's a good point. And is that what you're trying to show? Is it the character arc to go from a safe, sheltered person who, through the experience of death, opens up and becomes is able to live life? Or on the contrary, a person who is so reckless they don't really care about life, and after a death learns that life is special and that you do need to take care. There's a lot of ways to come through with it.
Right.
Transcendence, moving on to another realm after death. Are you trying to show that death shouldn't be feared?
Yeah.
Are you showing that it's the end of pain for someone who is in a long-term illness or something?
Right. Kind of like the mercy of,
Yeah.
death.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I was thinking about this too, because you mentioned grief earlier.
Mhm.
I feel like that could be its own kind of theme within death, because you could write about coping with the loss of a loved one, or the stages
Yes.
of grief, and like, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, all of those stages, and each one of those could be major plot points or like that kind of thing that could get across the theme in your novel, the theme of
Yeah,
death in
you're
your
not
novel.
just limited to one theme either.
Right.
Like you
Yeah,
said.
of course not.
Yeah.
And then I was also thinking about this because for an urban fantasy kick, which we write, undeath would also be an interesting theme within death to use in your novel. So I just rewatched all of the Twilight movies with my girlfriend. So it came to my brain first, like in Twilight, how Jacob was super angry with Bella for wanting to be a vampire because technically that would mean her death. And so it was this overall theme of like, well, she's choosing to die. She's choosing to accept death instead of, and so it became a whole conflict for Jacob and, major plot points with Jacob and all that kind of stuff. So
that's a good point. I hadn't seen that in years. There was an urban fantasy series where I think it was it might have been a paranormal romance where she ended up having to be made into a vampire because she was dying. And she has to come to terms with being undead. God, I can't remember what that book was.
It sounds like, and it could be more than one book, but that has this plot point. But the Chicagoland Vampires.
See, I haven't read that series, so I don't think it was that one.
Yeah, she got attacked and turned into a vampire and had to figure out how to cope with that.
What was that series where... I don't know that you liked it because it was more romantic. It had the offshoots with Vlad, the vampire.
Cat and Bones. I love Cat and Bones.
First of all, that was it. Cat and Bones.
First of all, Cat and Bones, amazing, great, love it.
So it was the offshoot of that theme came in where.
I did not read the offshoot. Yeah,
I loved the offshoot. I loved all of those books. That was it. Cat and Bones.
Yeah,
and
I love Cat and Bones. I have not read the spinoffs.
I've read every one of them. I love them. And in one of the spinoffs, she had to come to terms with immortality. We mortals have to come to terms with mortality, but she was having to come to terms with all of a sudden being immortal, which can also for urban fantasy be a great theme.
Definitely.
So ways to show this theme throughout the book. So symbolism, basically, which is a different thing than theme. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
But your symbolism is going to depend upon what that overall point is that you want for your book.
Right.
But basic symbols, graveyards, skulls, bones.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Just the first thing that came to my mind was like the Jolly Roger, the pirate ship with the black flag or whatever. Using the skull and crossbones as a symbol for like, don't mess with us or you're gonna die kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Coffins.
Yeah.
Certain animals like crows, black cats, moths, vultures, bats, the raven, of course, Edgar Allan Poe, the raven.
Right.
Candles, which I found this interesting. I hadn't thought of this until I was doing research for this. But candles have a limited life before they're snuffed out, and they're easily snuffed out. So candles are often used as symbolism for death.
I didn't think about that one either. I think that's a really good one.
Great one. Yeah. Colors. So obviously black and gray and dark colors, but what about white if your point is transcendence?
Also, didn't Death, one of the 4 horsemen, he rides on a pale white horse?
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah. Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. Also, the color blue, I think, too. It's like a somber color a lot of the time. It gets associated with like rain and,
it's a cool color as opposed to a warmer color like you would think of red and yellow and.
Right. Well, and if you think about like, when someone is sad or depressed, they're like, oh, you're feeling blue.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Rot, like a rotting garden. When you're writing your scenes, you can put a lot of this imagery in there to help get that point of death across. Rotting garbage. Think of the smell of garbage. Think of a garden that's dead.
I'd rather not.
Decaying foliage. Wow. Foliage. Holy cow.
You're struggling.
I am struggling. Dead flowers. Like
Mhm.
if your point is that life goes beyond death, think about a scene where there's all these dead plants and then something is growing with out of that, or like the sidewalks, when you're walking along a sidewalk and you got all this concrete and yet here's this plant struggling to survive among a place where you shouldn't think of it surviving. That is a great imagery and symbolism to go towards that.
Absolutely. It reminds me too of like wildfires, when a fire rushes through a forest and then afterwards like the forest will still grow back. Also reminds me of that.
Yeah.
You could also use like animal carcasses on the road or flies. Flies are a big one, I think. Like flies in rotten food, flies on bodies, flies in general, they're just associated with death. And yeah.
Could also be evil.
True.
I mean, which we'll probably do an episode now that we're doing themes. We'll probably do some different themes. Evil as a theme, I think, is cool.
Yeah.
The number 0, which I think is interesting. It's like the ultimate mystery. That's nothing.
Yeah. I didn't think of that as a concept for death.
So you could have zeros in your novel come up. I just think that's so cool.
That is super cool.
Also certain plants.
Yeah.
Like the red poppy. I didn't know this. The red poppy is used to remember the dead who fell in World War I and World War II.
Oh,
I had no idea.
I didn't know that.
And it kind of represents the blood that was spilled. Like when you see the red poppy field, like in, we're not in Kansas anymore. What is that?
The Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. It kind of looks like blood, which represents the death of our men dying on the fields.
Interesting. Also, sorry, unrelated, related, but unrelated to plants. The red sky of, if you see a red sunrise, then that foretells death on the horizon or
that's
whatever.
True. Or pollution, but symbolically, yes.
Honestly, though, if there's enough pollution, it's probably killing someone, which is horrible. But,
this is true, but it's really pretty.
Yeah.
The hyacinth, it's a common flower at funerals.
Right.
It represents grief, sorrow, pain, and honor. Lilies, also a common funeral flower. Supposedly it's the most common funeral flower, which I found to be interesting. Clocks. Yes, they're a symbol of time. And in many cultures, which I did not know, a family stops the clock in their home at the time of death to pay respects to the deceased.
I feel like I have actually heard that somewhere.
I had never heard that.
It sounds familiar to me, so I feel like I've heard that somewhere, but I think it's a really interesting a really interesting thing.
Think about Edgar Allan Poe with the telltale heart, the heartbeat, the sound of the clock ticking, that kind of thing. I think would be a really good way to symbolize the death.
Well, and I think it was a Supernatural episode where when people, there would be some people who died and the clocks would stop at the time of their death.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's in the first 3 seasons because that's all I've seen. But I'm pretty sure that's one of the episodes.
Such a great show. I love that show.
Yeah. I think Dean was dying and went to go see a healer, and it turned out he was stealing the life from other people to heal people. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Anyway, Supernatural. I'm pretty sure the clock stopped at the time of their death was the point of that.
Which is a great way to symbolize death.
Yeah.
Circles. The cycle of life.
Absolutely.
It can be infinity for one thing. If your point is to get across that we go on forever, our souls, spirits, whatever, go on. Just that cycle of life.
Yeah.
The symbolism of early versus late, which kind of goes with that age thing that I was talking about earlier. Okay.
Wow.
I've been drinking for a little bit.
There's your joke.
There's my
for
joke.
the day.
But if you're talking about early in the day or early in the season,
Right.
it could be talking about, there's several ways you could use that. You could use it as someone young dying,
Yep.
or it could be early in the life before death is even on the horizon,
Right.
versus late, where we're late in our lives and it's inevitably coming.
Right. Right.
Um, Things to consider when you're writing the death theme: consider your genre. We, of course, write urban fantasy,
Yep.
but like in a murder mystery, death is a necessity to set that scene.
Yes.
And we
Yeah.
don't, it's not that we don't care about the death, but it's usually already done. And the whole point is solving who did it.
Right.
So the death doesn't affect our investigator, our main character, as much as in some other different genres where it might
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Um, in urban fantasies, it may also be like a mystery, a werewolf attack that the mere mortals are thinking some animal, has come out of the woods and attacked. The death itself may not be the whole point of that,
Right. Yeah.
but depends on what you're trying to get across with your theme.
Yep.
The death may move the plot forward, but it may not be the ultimate, or it may turn around where you think that the death doesn't mean anything, but as you write the story, it's going to circle back around and the death is everything.
And it turns out it means something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole point of that death is something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about killing off characters. Think about the way, didn't we do an episode on killing off
I
characters?
think we did.
Yeah.
Killing your characters. I think we did.
Yeah. So think about the way you kill off your character. This is also going to depend on what your goal of this theme is. Killing off your main character is often different than killing off your side characters. Again, Rogue One, everybody dies. Sorry.
Right.
Spoiler effect.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler
Did
effect.
you say spoilers?
I'm sorry, y'all. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I mean, if you kill off your main character, well, there's a whole, didn't we do an episode on killing off main characters?
I'm pretty sure
we did.
I don't know. I think so.
I'll have to
I guess
look.
we'll have to if we didn't, and then
Yeah,
if we
'cause
did,
that's-
go listen to it.
Yeah, that's a good topic if we haven't done that yet.
I feel like we might have, though. I don't know.
But it's really hard to kill off a main character. Well, not for the guy that wrote Game of Thrones, because
I think it's
killed everybody.
well, that's the point, though. I think he had such a broad cast of characters that he literally could have killed anyone, and it would have, he's got plenty of main characters left. So, so.
But think about that. I mean, killing off your main character has to be done carefully. Not to say it can't be done. It can absolutely be done. Just think about how you're going to do it, and do it with intent.
Yeah.
Death can also lead to growth in your characters. It can also send a character into the depths of despair where they hide in a little box and can no longer cope with humanity.
Right.
Is your book going to be about suicide? Because that's a whole different theme.
Right.
Weave that theme in throughout the novel. You can use the symbolism, you can use all kinds of mechanisms to weave that theme throughout, which may have to be done on the rewrite.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anything should, or it doesn't have to be on the first write up.
And you may have some things in there on the first write, but it's when you rewrite it, you'll be able to see the bigger picture as to how you want to weave that in, and what more you can do to make it a stronger theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Think beyond the usual. Try to think outside the box. You don't like, the cliche. You don't have to use black. Think of a new way to do it. Think of some other way that also can mean death, where your reader's going to be going, oh my God, that was so cool.
Well, I know we did an episode on the color yellow symbolism, and I know the color yellow can sometimes represent decay and sickness. Whereas usually it's represented as like, it's bright
Sunshine,
flowery
happy.
yellow.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think that would be a really good way to twist things up.
But it's also pus. And,
We didn't have to talk about it.
well,
I
but-
said decay and sickness.
okay.
Gross.
You're not wrong. Don't limit yourself. Wow. Do not limit yourself to one theme.
Right. Yeah.
Just because death is going to be a central theme doesn't mean you're not going to have others that you're going to weave in and out of there too.
Right.
Break it down to relevant words. That's another thing. Word choice is huge when you're trying to get across a point.
Absolutely. Think about the descriptions that you make. You talked about it with the symbolism and everything. But even just the words that you choose, like you said, melancholy,
Yes.
darker words, longer words can, be about in a scene that's like about despair, where it feels like time has slowed to a crawl, like that kind of thing.
That's an excellent point. Yes. You can sprinkle it throughout your book, reiterate your message to your readers in a subtle but consistent. I think a lot of the theme ideas is to be consistent. You don't want to put it all at the beginning and not carry it through. You really do need to weave it throughout that book so that you're constantly reminding them of that theme, even if it's subtly reminding them of the theme.
Right.
And then as examples that came to my head, I didn't have a whole lot of time to go and research. I know there's many, many more, but Rogue One, of course.
Absolutely.
That's just because I watched it recently. But remember the bridge to Terabithia?
Yeah, it's depressing.
Oh my God. But very, very well done with the theme of death. It absolutely was the theme of death. Very well done. And then Cargo, did you watch that?
Yep. Yeah.
Also really well done.
Very good.
With hope interspersed through there. It wasn't just death. It was the inevitability of death.
Right.
But the hope for the future also intermingled in there. That was also a movie. It was a movie?
Yes. A Netflix movie, I think.
Yeah. So also really good.
Yeah.
So go check those out if you're wanting to study how the death theme can be used. Those are all examples of movies. The Bridge to Terabithia is also a book.
The Grave Witch would be a good one.
We talked about that last week.
Last week, I think.
Yeah, the Grave Witch is perfect. Your dad is reading those all again.
Yeah, I know.
He couldn't remember reading them. And I didn't know he had read them, but he read the whole first one.
Yep.
And remembered it as he was reading it. So I don't know how far he got into it, but I know he hasn't read it all the way through to the end, which she's ended it now, which is so sad.
I know. I haven't read the last book, and I'd probably need to reread the whole series.
And you should. It's well worth rereading.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a good one.
But that's all I've got on the death theme.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about it too. I do have an interview question though.
Okay.
Do you use the death theme in any of your novels?
I do not use any themes in my novels on purpose.
Sure, but that wasn't the question.
I don't know that I might have unintentionally done it, but I never set out to do it. And I haven't gone back and edited to the point where I actually was like, oh, I need to use death imagery throughout this. So I would say no.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll go back and reread what I've written and go, oh my God, that was kind of brilliant. I kind of had a theme there. I didn't even know I had.
I think a lot of writers do that.
I think so too. I wonder if some of the famous writers that, in school, we all learn, we go and reread these things and, oh, she meant this. And that was, brilliant. And I wonder if those writers would go, no, that's not really what I meant. But cool. That's a cool idea.
Like, sure. Like I made the curtains blue because they were blue. But sure, whatever you said.
It's like there was a book we read in school. I don't remember which book it was, but I remember the main character, her name was Temple. And we got taught that the whole point of the name of the character is that your body is your temple, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I wonder if the writer really, she might have just liked the name temple, or
Yeah.
she might truly have meant it to be a theme. I don't know.
True. That's true.
But if I do have that theme in any of my novels, it was totally unintentional.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I do in just one of mine.
Which one?
Aiden.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
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 Yeah. But hers deals more with the like the grief undertone
Mhm.
of death as a theme. So
And probably getting through that and
Yeah.
finding out on the other side there is hope.
something more. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Definitely. Well,
Okay.
I also have a sentence challenge for those of you who like to participate in those. And this week's is a bit of dialogue. So it is, there's always an end, kid.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Email us your little blurb or page or whatever you want to write on that with that sentence challenge.
Wow.
I am struggling. Come visit our website at www.eatdrinkwritepodcast.com.
Yes.
Please support us. This is getting really difficult to do with all the other jobs that we have to do. So any support you can give us would really help us do a better job. We could spend more time on this if you all would support us. So come to our Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/EDW.
Yep.
Yeah, EDW.
Yep.
Our website also has, you can email us from there. You can find links to all the places.
Social media.
The places you can find us on.
I feel like I'm playing Mad Libs, like you say a sentence and then you stop. And then so I'm like, okay, fill in the blank. All right.
Oh, that's pretty funny. I think that's all I've got.
All right. Well, that's all I've got too. Thank you guys for listening. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
We'll see you next week.